Today we'll build a responsive navigation bar from scratch using HTML and CSS and write media queries to make things responsive. Let's begin by taking a look at what we'll be building today. We have a navbar fixed at the bottom of the screen, and if you hover over it, it highlights the link by adding a green border at the bottom of the screen. And we'll have a hamburger icon to display the submenu. We'll be using media queries to take the navbar to the top of the page for large screen devices. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. And to see more project focused videos like this, smash that like button and leave me a comment. For the easy navigation, I have put the timestamp of the video in the description below. Do check it out. Let's get started with the coding. First, I'll create an index.html and then we'll create a folder named CSS, add a style sheet, and we'll create another folder named SCSS and create a style sheet. Okay, great. We'll add some boilerplate codes for HTML using VS Code. For that, I'll type exclamation and press enter. And I'll rename the title as navbar. Now we'll add our style sheet to the page using link. And I'll update the location of the style sheet. And before we get started with the navbar, let's add some content to the page. Okay, now let's minimize this main. We'll add a nav element with the class navbar. And we'll take a look at our SCSS file. I'll reset the margin, padding and the box sizing first. Now we'll add a root element to store our CSS variable for our color scheme. Along with that, we'll add some CSS to make the placeholder element look good. That's better. Now we'll start with our navbar class. We'll set our navbar's color, width and height. VW unit is a relative unit. We are telling the browser to occupy 100% of the viewport width. And for height, we'll set it as 3 rem unit. Rem unit is also a relative unit. By default, 1 rem unit is 16 pixel. Now our navbar is visible at the top of the screen. But we want our navbar to sit at the bottom of the screen. For that, we'll set the position of navbar to fixed and bottom to 0. Well, now it's positioned at the bottom. Now let's add a logo, main menu, submenu and some navigation links in the HTML. For the logo, we'll add a div with a class of navbar logo. For now, I'll be just adding a text logo instead of going for an image logo. For the main menu, we'll have an unordered list with class navbar menu. And inside the menu, we'll add some links along with some font awesome icons. And for getting the font awesome icons, I'll be adding the font awesome kit to the head of the HTML. I'll add few more links like this one. Now I'll change the color of the font in the navbar and I'll get rid of that underline created by the anchor tag. Now I'll change the display of navbar to flex to display the contents of navbar horizontally. In SCSS or SAS, we can use a shorthand property. Instead of creating a class named navbar menu, do the same thing by using an ampersand. See, if I add any property like a display flex and if I go back to the plain.css file, we can see that SAS compiler have created a class named navbar menu for us. And now everything in our navbar is displayed horizontally. To have some space between these links, we'll add a padding to it. And let's get rid of this list disk. Now we'll align this font awesome icons and the text. Okay, since they are inside this anchor tag, we'll have to set these properties inside the anchor tag. And we'll reduce the font size a bit. I'll increase the icon size and align it to the center by using the class FAS. And for the logo, we'll highlight it using a different color and move it to the top of the page. So for that, we'll create a class navbar logo with background color, position as fixed, top as 0, width as 100 view width, and height as 3 rem. To move our logo to the center, we'll display it as flex, justify the content, and align items to the center. We'll increase the font size and font weight as well. Now we'll position these links to the center of this navigation bar. We'll do it by justifying content and aligning items to the center. Now for displaying this sub-menu, we'll add a hamburger icon to our navbar. We'll create a checkbox of ID toggle with the label more and an icon from Foundation. We'll add the class hamburger to the label. We'll update the hamburger class to make it look like the other links. Hovering over the icon is not showing it as clickable. We'll fix that by setting the cursor as pointer. We don't need this checkbox to be displayed here. So we'll remove it by setting the display as none. Alright, now we'll create the submenu. Same as the main menu, we'll use an unordered list and we'll set a class navbar submenu to it. And I'll copy a link from the main menu. Alright, I have added 3 links to the submenu. To style this, we'll create a navbar submenu class. I'll set its position to fixed and change its background color. To position it to the top right of the navbar, we'll set the right property to 0 and bottom to 3 rem. We'll set a width of 35 view width and add some padding. Since we have already styled the nav link above, we'll move it out of the navbar menu class so that it will get reflected to navbar submenu class as well. Since we have padding and list style above, we can remove it from here. It will be much better if there is a spacing between each links in the submenu. So we'll add a margin top to the nav link inside submenu. Now this submenu should be displayed only when more is clicked. To show how it's done, I'll make the checkbox visible again. I'll add the CSS checked property, and when the checkbox is checked, the navbar submenu's display property will be set to none, making it invisible. Instead of that, we'll make the display as block here, and inside navbar submenu, I'll set the property of display as none. Alright, now when the page is loaded, the submenu won't be displayed, and when somebody clicks on the more, the submenu gets displayed. Now we'll hide the checkbox from navbar. I'll do one more thing. I'll make the top left of the submenu as rounded. Yes, now the navbar is all set for the small screen device. Now we can start writing media queries to make it look better for the large screen devices. Alright, now we'll write media queries to modify some of the classes if the screen width is greater than 850px. For the large screen devices, it will be much better to have the navbar at the top of the screen. So using media query, I'll modify the navbar class and set its top to 0. Now the navbar is in the top, but we can't see it because of the logo. So I'll modify the navbar logo as well and set its width as auto and the position as relative. Now we'll add some space between the logo and these menus. I'll do it by justifying the content of navbar to space around. Now we'll change the way how the navbar link looks in the large screen device. And we'll get rid of that hamburger menu. There is nothing to worry. It will come back if the screen size is small. Now we'll work on the submenu class. We'll display it as flex and position the content as relative. We'll set the width as auto and we'll inherit the bottom, padding and the background color. We'll modify the navbar main menu as well to display the links like in submenu. We'll make some more changes to the nav link such as setting the font size and adding a margin to the left. Well guys, we have successfully created a responsive navbar using HTML and CSS. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.